Okay, today we're going to do Brian the Lion from 1994 by Psygnosis and Reflections, the same team that made the Shadow of the Beast series. It was their last Amiga game, unfortunately, before they went on to the PlayStation. And it's known for a lot of its Mode 7 style effects that they tried to pull up on the original Amiga here. So as you can see, this title screen has got some cool little effects. On the side here, you've got the plane playfield horizontal scroll values that are changing. And then look at all that there. I've never seen this before on the copper visualizer. So if I pause it, there's quite an extensive copper list. Some of the different ones, right copper pointer. Uh, what else we got here? Bitplane modulo, trigger copper 2, bitplane playfield horizontal scroll values. And that's what you got over here too, is all the horizontal scroll values. And it's got a color change for, looks like the letters, the and the design here. It changes colors. All right, here's the sort of zoom and then a pixelized effect that the Super Nintendo did a lot. Okay, and I pause it here as it starts out, and this line is all bitplane modules for the odd planes and then the even planes. So it's just zooming in and nothing is changing on the copper list. And now it's the pixelation effect. And let's see what that does. Okay, and now when we get into the game, we'll see that it is a 16 color game. So take the bit planes off and go 1, 2, 3, 4 bit planes, 16 colors. But then the interesting part is you see that down here is not done. So click that and it uses 5-bit planes. So it splits the screen here. If we put the copper visualizer on, you'll see the bit plane pointers change and the palette changes down here. And so all up here is 16 colors, and then down here is 32 colors. And let's look at the sprites. So take the bit planes off. You just get the copper sky background. Okay, the first sprite is half of Brian and this part in the HUD. And then the second one finishes off and attaches. So there's 15 colors. And then you get the other half and other half. But you might think, oh, if Brian jumps up, then it's going to interfere with these sprites here. Well, if I put the bit planes back on and a jump, you see how they all move together. So he never conflicts with those other sprites. And then the next sprite is the rest of the score. So sprite 6 and 7 are again the fun ones. So sprite 6, you get half of the palm trees. And then sprite 7, wow, look at that. You fill in the palm trees, and then you also get all up here, which is very odd for sprites because, again, they're supposed to be 16 pixels wide, and they have to repeat like down here. But what's going on with these clouds? Well, just like if you check out my Bubba and Sticks video, it talks about how if you use just a 2-color sprite instead of 4 colors, that there's enough time for the copper to reposition them with new sprite data. So that's what they're doing here with the clouds. It's just all sprite 7. So if we take everything off and just put sprite 7, you've got all these palm trees, and then you've got these clouds up here across the entire screen in a non-repeating pattern. So that is a very cool trick that seemed to have been discovered in 1994. The next version of the Engine 9000 debugger has a cool new feature where it has a sprite visualizer. So if I click on sprite visualizer, you get this. So it does different colors for each sprite. So down here, it'll show you sprite 0 to 7 with the color legend. And then if they're attached for 15 colors, then it's the different ones here. So as you can see, Brian, and even if you go over with the cursor, so right here is attached 0 and 1, and then attached 2 and 3, and right there, sprite 6, sprite 7, sprite 7, sprite 7. Very cool feature. And if you move with the sprite visualizer on, watch this. You can see the background, how it animates the different sprites in the palm trees. Okay, when I turn on the copper visualizer, a lot of cool stuff is revealed here. So it's kind of hard to make out, but just like Jim Power, the sprites are being repositioned here. So this is sprite 6 position, sprite 6 data, sprite 7 position, sprite 7 data, and then it keeps repeating. So instead of every 16 pixels, it looks like it's every 8 pixels here that it's moving it. And that creates the palm trees if you put the sprites back on. Okay, so this is very cool where you get to the middle with sprite 7 and then it waits for vertical position and horizontal position and then changes the sprite data every 8 pixels. And then up here, look at this pattern where it does the position again and then it repeats to make these 2-color clouds. So if you check Code Tapper's website, he's got a great website with sprite tricks, and he talks about Brian the Lion, and he's a coder, so he goes into all the detail about how they do this with the sprite and the copper lists. Okay, and then if we start moving and we put the bit planes on, we find out that this is also a dynamic copper list like Kid Chaos. But watch as we move and we jump. And if I put the blitter visualizer on for a second with it, you can see that there's blitz of the coconuts, but it's also kind of a cheat because up here you can see which ones are active and about to fall on you. So if I move over, look at that, the blitter visualizer gives you an advantage. So you can see that coming. It also blitz the spring here and the collectibles, and you can see the side tiles, the 16 pixels on the side scrolling in, and then at the top when you jump, and at the bottom, so for the 8-way scrolling. And then this little springy bridge is also, woo, blitz. This area right here gives you a great demonstration of the dynamic copper list because you see it's just moving up and down on its own. So the purple there is the move the bitplane pointers, and then there's the green. So like Kid Chaos, it is actually dynamically changing colors also. So if I pause it with the part that was going up and down, you can see that it changes some of the colors, color 5, color 1, the water color, some of the brown color, and then yeah, there it is moving again. So very cool that these dynamic copper lists. It looked like again 1994, Kid Chaos, Bubba and Styx, Brian the Lion. They were really mastering OCS, ECS. So it's too bad that it was mainstream on its way out. Then that was the year that Commodore folded. This game has the AGA version, but it's just kind of based on this version, and it wasn't AGA from the ground up. So that would have been incredible. And this part is a good visualization too, where the water. There's like the swampy water, and if you jump, you see how that moves dynamically. So yeah, very powerful copper list here. So it gave them 16 color screen, but then they were able to utilize more than 16 colors on screen at once using this dynamic copper list. Okay, we're now on the shoot 'em up level, and what I found interesting is right away, if you turn off the bit planes, you'll see, and you leave the sprites on, then you'll see the splash in the water is a sprite. Never knew that. When I first played this level on the AGA version, I thought that this level had AGA enhancements, but nope, it's exactly the same between the ECS, OCS, and the AGA version for the shoot 'em up levels. So this level is in dual playfield. So if we take off the bit planes and then we go bit plane 1, 3, and 5, then you get the foreground. So let's play it for a sec like that. So there's just the foreground. And then if you switch it to 0, 2, and 4, then you get the background. So there you go. So with dual playfield like this, you get 15 colors, you get 8 in the back and 7 in the front, but then they're also changing the colors in the copper list, so you get more total colors than that. And then something interesting that I noticed is that even with bit plane 0, 2, and 4 on, this bottom strip here doesn't show up properly. So I was investigating, and if you take them all off and you go to 0, 1, and 2, then you get the correct color for down here. So I think that's just 3 bit planes. There are 8 colors there. So can you interact with it? Let me see. Okay, you can't interact with the bottom like that. So it doesn't matter that that screen, it's a different bit plane setup because that's as low as you can go right there. And you see these guys, they pop up above that. So yeah, this whole strip here is a separate screen, and then this down here is a separate screen. So really, your play area is just up here. So it's kind of like the trick that Jim Power did, having the ground be a separate screen. It even says here, It changes BBL-con 0 to 3200, the bit plane depth and screen mode. So to 3-bit planes. Okay, here's the bonus level in Brian the Lion that has the mode 7-ish kind of effects that you saw in Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo. So it speeds up and slows down and everything in the back here. There's a few bonus levels like this, but this is the ice one. And then there's these ice platforms that rotate. And look at with the blitter visualizer, it's all in different strips. Again, it's slower with the debugger on here than it would be normally, but that's with the blitter visualizer. So if you take it off, it just looks like this. Very cool effect. So how is all this being done? Let's take a look. Now, if you put on the blitter visualizer, nothing for the background. So if we do the bit planes, it's probably in dual playfield here. So bit plane 0. Ah, look at that. That's kind of cool looking. Bit plane 2. And then bit plane 4. There you go. That's the whole background. And the foreground is bit plane 1, 3, and 5. So if we just have the background here, it looks kind of neat. So let's see how it's done with the copper visualizer. So put that on, and wow, look what all is going on. Lots of stuff. So it's mainly move others, and there's a few color changes in here. And also this one is interesting, is that, let's see, this is trigger copper 2, but it's cop jumper to strobe. So I've never seen that one before, the strobe. And over here it's changing the bit plane playfield horizontal scroll values all the way across the screen. So it has quite a complicated and complex copper list here. Very interesting for any coders to check this debugger and figure it out to its fine details. So it shows that for certain effects, a 1985 Amiga can do what a 1990 Super Nintendo can do. So that's quite a flex. So just from earlier, I forgot to put on the blitter visualizer when it's doing this pixelated zoom effect. So let's see what happens here. Oh, so if I pause it, you get these kind of lines. I'm not sure what those are, but yeah, keep it going. So yeah, that's how it looks in slow motion. So here's the blitter visualizer for some of the intro effects. And the zoom there, lots of blitz. And finally, here's the blitter visualizer for the title screen and all the warping and effects. Look at that, all the strips. Oh, wow. The blitter strips are like morphing when it rotates too. And there, oh, when it's up and down. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting effects going on here. Probably similar to what some demos would do. So there you have it, all the cool effects in Brian the Lion as it disappears there. Oh, look at that effect. Yeah, very cool. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And until next time, take care.